into electronic heaven. So I had to buy a new machine, and I opted for a box, a simple box, but it's got a 4K output. So I've got a 43-inch 4K TV mounted on the wall. And so the camera is way up high now as opposed to when it was on the top of the laptop. Into electronic heaven. So I had to.
That was you on YouTube. So.
Oh, really? Oh, no.
Yeah, everything being said right now, by the way, is going live to the interwebs.
Nice.
So.
Are you going to be famous now?
Oh, you'll be famous. I'm sure I'll be famous one day.
Infamous?
Yeah, one of those. Matter of fact, I need to share this to the interwebs.
Oh, yeah, it says live on YouTube in the top left corner.
Mm-hmm.
Nossa Senhora. The Salesforce best friend. This is Ohana in a cup.
Wait, you talk to me like you don't see me doing something right now, so I get it. But I am only a man. I can do one thing at a time, so hang on. One, day 3. Oh, awesome. We got Patrick, we got Steven, we got Steve, we got Anthony. I thought one of there was one other person I was kind of expecting. But maybe no, Patrick, you're all right. Are you still there, Patrick? Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Hey, Cherry's here. Katarina's yeah, Patrick. So Kyle, that's who it is. Yeah, where's Kyle? Kyle's the first to jump on board. And all good. Let's see if anybody wants to show up. We're gonna get started in just a minute. So what I'd like you to do is, if you have any, I'm not managing this like some live meetings would allow me to, because I'm not that proficient at that yet. I'm doing my if you have a question about Salesforce, put it in the chat. You can put it direct to me, or you can put it my intention is to kind of go over the biggest challenge for most people, which is the security and data model, and then customizing pages. But really, if you have any Salesforce question around being an admin, or what that's like, or what you need, all right. All right. So this is really where what this is for. Welcome. My name is Dominic Karuba. I am the founder and chief executive trainer of Sales and Technology Consultants. This is a broadcast we're doing for the awesome admin community here at Salesforce. I happen to be teaching a class that goes over the next 2 weeks. The next week, it's a 2-week class for the admin. So I got some of you guys here, some of you guys in my last admin class, some of you guys over in my platform app builder class. So really, I want to open it up, and we're going to talk about the security model. What I what I need to find is that security model, right? The who sees what in Salesforce. Now I wanted to find, I have some help links that I think might be what might help some folks. I don't remember. Let me look at my bookmarks. Searching, but hey, this is a Q&A session. Like, so if there's a topic, the way I envision this session is just ask a question. I'll show you where I would go find the answer, or where to find the answer in in the lightning experience. I do have, I know there's some who sees what videos out there. I haven't reviewed these in a while, so I don't know if you've got them or didn't. Yeah. Then data visibility. So that's a good, I think there's a whole series that Salesforce did that are, pretty good. These are several videos. I think they're part of a playlist. See who's, yeah, let's see. Is it part of a playlist? What I'm hoping is that it goes, oh, they don't have anyway. So that's, yeah, there's a bunch of who sees what, record access. Yeah, there it is. A bunch of who sees what videos, which I think are pretty good as well. So welcome everybody. Let's do a little quick. So just because there's other people here, if you would care to open up your mic, tell us who you are, what you do, what your goal is with Salesforce, and what's your questions. I haven't seen any questions in the chat just yet. So otherwise, I'm just gonna, do what I want to do, which is it could go anywhere. You never know where it's gonna go. So first of all, can everybody hear me okay? Does the sound good? Sound quality is good? All right, awesome. So if you would, just do a quick intro so we can know who's here. Everybody shy now? Everybody shy?
I'll go since no one's piping up.
That's your job, man.
I'm Steven. I work for the University of Colorado. We're going to be transitioning to Salesforce from a Oracle database model. So I'm just trying to learn everything I can about Salesforce. I'm just like a sponge, wanting to try to soak up as much information as I can. And at this point, I don't really have a question, or I have like a billion questions, as Dominic knows. But I like the page layout stuff. That kind of, being a programmer, that aspect's interesting to me.
Yeah, very cool, awesome. Anthony, you've never been shy before.
Hi, good morning. I'm Anthony. I am an old admin from client server days, and have moved into the Salesforce ecosystem by choice. And I am looking for more of the user interface, as Stephen mentioned. I think that's a big selling point for adoption, and as well for the end user community. So I'm digging into that. And of course, how the sausage is made behind the scenes with data population and outputting for reporting and things. So thanks for setting this up, Dominic.
Yeah, no problem. All right, cool. Steve, the other Steve, just quick. You don't have to be as long-winded as Anthony or Steven so far. You can just be quick. Tell us a short answer, who you are, what you want to do, what do you do, that kind of thing.
Okay, so my name is Steve Sanders. I am currently unemployed, trying to expand my skill set with Salesforce. And I am, just so you know, I am registered to take the exam, the admin exam on Friday.
This Friday coming up? Awesome. Yep. Have you signed up for my readiness assessment?
No.
You should I'll put a link so you can do that. But take the readiness assessment. It's got a bank of questions. You can see.
Awesome.
Yeah. So yeah.
Thank you. And I do really appreciate you doing this
yeah, no worries.
Session.
What happened here? A redirect notice.
I can go next.
Yeah, please.
Hi, I'm Cherry. I am actually a Salesforce employee. I am in recruiting, but I am having a blast learning more about our Salesforce products. So, wanting to get my Salesforce certification and to upskill and learn more about Trailhead.
Nice. It's good to know, Cherry. That'd be awesome. Stephanie and Katerina and Patrick. I know Patrick. Patrick just sent me a chat. This meeting is different than what he expected. We've been doing 100 days of Trailhead together for the year. In the last couple of weeks, I've stopped doing my daily broadcast because, I did that. Patrick is one of our new consultants working with sales and technology consultants. And just so you guys know, I'm committed to build an army of part-time consultants to serve the small to mid-sized market, business market that use Salesforce to help them get what they need without, while they figure out Salesforce and how to use it best for their business. So anyway, Patrick, Katerina, Stephanie, y'all want to say anything else? I know Patrick said he's tired and want to talk. So, hey.
Sure, I'll go. Hi, my name is Stephanie. I just finished up my admin training with Dominic last week. So heading into my certification on Friday as well. So just prepping as best I can. And
wait, we have a class on Friday. You're ready to take it too?
yeah.
Oh, nice. All right. Yay. Have you taken my assessment yet? I haven't checked the database to see if you.
I haven't taken it, but I will definitely take you up on that. So definitely excited to be here. And thanks, Dominic, for hosting. This is awesome. So really appreciate you taking the time.
No problem. Katerina, you're from the last crew too, right? Am I remembering that correctly?
No, you're right. My name is Katerina. So I actually took my admin test. I didn't pass, which is fine. So, no, and I know I didn't pass, so which is fine. And I just wanted to do some review. I think I have lots of questions because I have there were some things on there that I completely did not review that I probably should have.
Right.
That's it. I'm taking the test again on Tuesday.
So when you look at your results of the test, they tell you which areas you needed, that you had scored better than others, right?
Right. So I did pretty awesome in everything except for workflows. I did not review flow at all. So I think I need to know what the difference between workflow, process builder, and flow is, because I apparently did not remember that conversation or was not paying attention in that part of the class. And then also,
yeah, go ahead.
Oh no, and also there was the app builder for the mobile app. I had 2 questions for that part, and busted those.
Okay, good. So those are things that you remember, right? So that'd be great. We'll talk about that. All right, good. So let's see. All right, so the one thing that we covered in the class, so the class I'm teaching right this week and next week is the same class that you guys took in a week. They're just doing it in 4-hour sessions over the time. It's called the extended version. And so again, they're changing up how they do these classes. We're in the security model right now. We just started doing customizations. The first thing I wanted to tell you and everybody else is that when you're in the class that Salesforce provides, you get a training organization that's set up for AW computing, right? You got all the licenses, all the people, and you all have it for about 42 days or so from the time the class started or whenever they created it. It's about the time frame. It's called 30 days. So if you log into that org, that's fine. After that, I just want you to know that you can go to developer.salesforce.org, get a fully functioning org for yourself, but it's with a company called GenWatt Computers or GenWatt something, I think is what it is. And I'm not going to use that org. I'm actually going to use one of my training orgs because everybody here is from that class or is still in that class is what I'm going to use. So I just want you to know it's available. You can practice. Developer orgs are where you actually create customizations that you can upload to your org as an unmanaged package. Platform app builders skills right there. So for this one, let's go. I just wanted you to know it's available. You also have Trailhead Playgrounds that'll be built specifically for a super badge or a yeah, super badge. See if this helps too. I don't know if this link will work. You can do a super badge or different projects or different trails, wherever you need to test what you're doing. They'll give you the instructions in the Trailhead. You got to follow them exactly. And in order to get the 500 points. But I just wanted to make sure you had access to that. So there's a couple of Who Sees What videos. I put the link to the YouTube channel. I'm sorry, the Salesforce Vidyard. I don't know if there's a login that you have to get to first. I forget where these things come from, but yeah, there they are. So let me log in. If you're in an org, log into that org. And I think all of you would probably do well by logging into your admin org that you've been given. Patrick, let me know if you need to log in. What I'll do is I'll have you log in. Yeah, it's very helpful. And then I'll give you this username to log in, Patrick, and I'll send you my password real quick for it. And then my password. You might have to activate your browser. We all know why, right? Why does he have to activate his browser? When you log in, and I'm demonstrating it right now, when you log into Salesforce, if those of you have taken the test, those who haven't, right? There's two things Salesforce is looking for generally. Something you have, something you know. You know your username and password. You have a cookie, or who knows what the other thing is. This is way interactive, so you could turn off. You don't even need to mute unless you got background noise. Well, Anthony, we might mute, but we'll see how he answers his questions. Right. You have a trusted IP, Cherry. Right. You have an IP that's recognized. So when you log into Salesforce, what's the first place you go as an admin if a user's having trouble logging into Salesforce? Anybody remember?
Their login history.
Login history. Why? Because that tells you all the information Salesforce collects. And why does Salesforce collect that information? Because it not only wants to make sure you know your username and password, but also they really want to make sure you are you. And oh, by the way, Patrick, if you get a verification request, I got to give you that code if you log into that org, or you can just log into a dev org. It doesn't matter.
It logged in fine, actually.
It did? All right. Well, that's weird. Yes, I want to unsubscribe. All right, so it didn't do that. That's great. Okay, cool. So when you log in, right, everything in Salesforce is centered around two fundamental things: the user and the account record. Right? Those are the standard things that everything kind of centers around. And when you think about a user, all of the things that, administration wise that affect a user are going to be here in this section, right? Under users. The first thing a user needs, right, is a user record. And when a user has a user record, that means they also have a license that's assigned to them. So they could have a Salesforce license, they could have a Force.com platform license, they could have a Chatter license, right? That license is going to have the collection of permissions that user has potential access to. So what limits the potential of the access? Who remembers what limits the potential of the access? And this is the foundation of all security, by the way.
The profile.
The profile, right? Every user is assigned a profile. And every user, right? So every user is assigned a username. How do you assign your users their password? How do you do that? How do you, the admin, assign your user a password?
Checkbox at the bottom of the profile.
Kinda, Steve, right? So when I'm creating, if I'm having trouble with a user,
You reset it and it emails it to them.
yeah. So you if you click the box at the very bottom of their user record, there's Kyle, that'll generate a new user password request, right? So it's a way to kind of kickstart a user. I've used this, by the way, in sandboxes that I'm using for training. By the way, Kyle, we're going over the security model, and then we're going to touch on specifically to cover what we covered yesterday a little bit.
Oh, awesome.
Page layouts.
Yeah.
Thanks for
I'm still a
making
little
it.
high from the pain med, so we're good.
Hey, awesome. Anybody else? Not in, no, anyway, it's cool. So that little checkbox right there generates a new password. It really doesn't. What it does is it generates that initial password change request. So they'll get an email that asks them to, log in or verify, whatever it does. Just like you did when you logged into your org the first time in training, you were requested to give a new password. Who never knows your password? Who never knows your password?
Yeah.
The
man.
admin.
Everybody doesn't know your password. Only you should know, only the user should know their password. Does that make sense? Like, we're talking about security.
Unless you share it in a chat window.
Yeah. Or with my dog, because he's my backup.
Exactly. Right. I shared my password with Patrick in the chat window. Thank you, Patrick. I can kick out his meeting. Anyway, so, right. So security starts in it, like it's right. So it's there right now, because a user, you could generate a new password. It won't go anywhere because this is not a real email address, and you can't just change somebody's email address. There's certain restrictions that have to apply in order to do that. So a user, right, when you go to a user's record, let me go to my user record, right? There's certain things that are required on that user record that mean something, right? The first thing is their license, and then their profile. Am I the admin? Oh yeah, I'm in my own, right? And then there's their username, which, by the way, is always formatted like a what?
Email.
It's always formatted as an email, but it does not have to be a real email address, right? Like, so notice my email address, I use Gmail. I use my personal Gmail account. And because I log into these classes, right, I have a unique domain that makes up my email that designates that org, right? Sort of the way we set up these training orgs, which now you guys last week, Steve, Anthony, and Stephanie, look at the vanity URL actually now matches your username. I'm not taking credit for that, but I definitely recommended that in the not so far off future. But I put the org number so in that matches my URL, my login username, because that tells me which org is sending the emails that I forgot to dismember, whatever, right? So the red boxes are what's required. And then the user has a role. Now, does the user have to be in the role hierarchy, even though they have to have a role?
No.
How do you know?
Because I set one up for myself and then give myself a role in the hierarchy.
That's right. So you could, one of the roles is not specified, or their role is not in the role hierarchy. Now, role hierarchy, role begins with what letter?
R.
R. Profile begins with what letter? P, right? So I want you to keep the R's and the P's identifiers kind of present, because role only matters when it affects role. The role only affects what? The role only affects one thing. I'll give you a hint.
Rules.
No.
Records.
Maybe. Yes, but not but those
Objects.
rules exist. Mm-mm.
Come on. I thought objects was the right
It
one.
begins with R.
Records.
Records. The role is there to affect records.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
That's why they begin with an R.
All right. Profiles, objects.
Profiles have to do with permissions.
Permissions.
And what are
Okay.
the kinds of permissions we need? A, we need permission to the org. That's our license. That's our first So really the permissions, which are a subset of your license. I want to be clear, because if you have a chatter license, that's one set of permissions that are available for your profile. If you have a Salesforce license, that's a whole nother set of permissions in your profile. The other licenses you would have would be on your user record, things like the marketing user, flow user, those kind of things. Those are feature licenses that are assigned by user record. And how do I know that? Well, because the other piece of the puzzle is not the user and the data and the email, but rather the company settings. Down here in the menu where we see company settings, these are all the things that if they affect the company, they affect everybody in the company, right? Or they set the defaults for every user in the company. And the company information, like this is the profile, this is the user record for the whole org. And if you think about Salesforce, really, every individual org is just another record type for all of Salesforce when we get to record types tomorrow. But my company, my AW computing company, will show me all of my licenses. I've got 4 user licenses from Salesforce in my company right now that I bought from Salesforce. I bought Salesforce licenses, identity licenses, chatter free licenses, chatter external. You could buy force.com platform licenses. You could buy Service Cloud licenses. You can buy all kind of licenses from Salesforce. Matter of fact, if you got an unlimited budget, you could spend money so many ways, right? But in the Salesforce license, that's our set that we're using to access all of our clouds in our edition. And where do we have those clouds? All those settings are in profiles. So our profiles allow us to control what each user can do as part of our, login users, right? Not everybody should be an admin, right? Not everybody should be an admin. But those that are, so if you look at like your profiles, notice you've got 2 flavors. You got custom. What's the other one called? The ones that doesn't have a checkbox on custom. What do we call those?
Standard,
And when you hear the word standard, what should you relate it to?
out of the box.
Nope.
Can't change them.
Yes, but why? Because they're
Pre-wired,
hardwired.
hardwired.
Hardware. Standard things are more like hardware than they are software because there's less you can do to adjust them. So that's right. They're out of the box, but out of the box, some things out of the box are customizable. Some things out of the box are not. That's why I want you to think of it in terms of hardware, not out of the box. Because out of the box, you can create custom profiles. Out of the box, you can create, like there's a lot of things you can do out of the box. Does that make sense? The box contains it. Standard means that's the box more than out of the box. All right. So when we set up profiles, it's a best practice to create custom profiles. So what does that mean though as an admin? That means you need to know how you classify your groups of users, right? Let's see if I have, I'm going to create a new list for you, by the way. I'm going to call it custom profiles. And custom equals true. And then I could choose like what, let's see, the created date. Whoops. So I can actually create a list for you that says, these are just all my custom profiles. Like I get an overview of these custom profiles. Whoops. I don't know why it doesn't just use the ones, right? So here's all my custom profiles. Now, why would I create a list of my custom profiles to see when they were modified, when they were created, and who modified them last? Why would I care about that? Why don't I just create a list of you? Well, yes, but as an admin, what's always changing is the environment that your users are working in. Our world is always changing. Would y'all agree with that? And because our world is changing, you got to have certain things that you can do to modify those kind of things, right? So you might want to know some of these details about it. All right, so let's talk about the security model and what that means. So when we think about our users and when we design their profiles, it's all based upon the idea of knowing what they do and knowing what they need to do their job, right? So some of security is about protecting your data from the wrong eyes in your organization, but also protecting the eyes of your user from too much data. Having too much data does not help people. Can y'all relate to an experience where that's true? Like maybe that thing we've been dealing with for a year with all the data flying around. Does anybody know, like really know what's true now or what matters or how we're supposed to behave? I think all we've been trained for with that data is watch the news and buy the stuff that their advertisers are trying to sell you, right? That's if you've learned anything in the last year, it's very clear that, and I did this for a long time, right? When I watch TV, I'm always curious about the ads that I'm seeing because that's who I am watching that program at that time of night, right? That's who you are. If you want to know who you are, look at the ads you're seeing, right? Because that's what you do. But for our users, we want to protect our data, both from overwhelm and from, a lack of authorization to like they shouldn't see it versus it doesn't help them to see all that data, right? So how do we primarily control what does the profile control access to? Typically, like when we look at a sales user's profile, what are the different areas that the sales user profile, what should it limit? What should a sales user see and be able to do from what you know about sales?
Their accounts, their open opportunities, their leads for the products that they.
Yeah, the object.
Right? Yeah. Right. So we need to give them access to all of those objects, right? We need to give them access to all those rooms. Do they need anything? Do they need to know everybody's salary?
No.
Do they need to know data deficit versus daily? Exactly. That's a good way to put it, Anthony. Not the best way, but it's a good way. So I'm just picking on you a little bit. What do they need? Like, what do they need? They need access to pricing sheets. They need access to marketing materials. They need access to, that kind of thing that help them have sales conversations that are more impactful and more effective, right? That's their job. And there could be different kinds of people in all of sales. So the access to the apps. Who remembers what apps are?
That's what's listed over in the waffle menu, right?
Anything in the waffle. Good way to put it. And if you're not sure, go to apps and say, oh, look, these are my apps, right? If you look at I got all tabs, app launcher, Bolt solutions, content, marketing, recruiting. If those don't make sense to you, go to your front end. In the waffle are all your apps, right? They're just a collection of tabs. What are tabs?
Objects.
They can most often represent objects, but that's only one of 5 things a tab can represent, to be clear. Don't worry about it for your test, but tabs represent the things that a collection that the user needs. Think of it like the kitchen in a restaurant, right? The cook needs to be in the kitchen. The waiter needs to be on the floor. They don't need access to the same stuff. Does that make sense? Now, some waiters cook and some cooks, now cooks don't wait on tables. I did. Do you configure all that? That's too vague a question. All that, what do you mean, Stephen?
So you said the tabs were, what a user needs. And so I understand that, but is that broken down by how you create the apps or the page layouts or the profile, or kind of a combination of all that?
It's a combination of all that, right? You create the app built on all the things that you've created, right? So then apps will share the same tabs, right? So my campaigns tab, my opportunities tab, reports and dashboard tabs, those are all part of the marketing app, which is distinct from the service app, because customer service reps need something totally different. And apps pretty much come in 2 flavors. Apps come in basic. We're talking about, let's see, we don't even have this one right now. Oh, we don't even have the second flavor. Oh, that's awesome. They took that out away. All right. So look at the home page, right? So an app has a home page and a collection of tabs that go with it. And depending on the tab, that tab has its own home page. And with that, action buttons and those kind of things, right? All of that access is controlled by the profile. How do I know? Because it says right here, these are all my assigned apps for this sales user profile. And if I want to see what's assigned to the sales user profile, right? I can see what's visible, what's the default. If I want to take away all the tabs, which is all items, you could take all those things away. You control by the group of users what they can see and do. Then we go down to assigned connected apps. What are those? Notice when you prepare for your test, and Katerina, you said you took it, right? And failed? Or was it Stephanie?
No, it was me, Katerina.
Katerina, okay, great. Right? So go get your fingers on it and see what's what, right? So do you want to give the sales user access to an Android app or an iOS app? You'd have to set it right there, right? Yeah, the multi-factor, Salesforce is pushing that right now. I haven't even looked at it personally.
Yeah, it's Brad. I mean, I just got the email after I talked to you about it. It's like, what? It's like, how Google is usually listening to what you say. And I think Salesforce is big enough to do that now. So,
no, I don't think they're listening. They might be. Listen.
It was just coincidental after we talked about a class. Hey, I got this email on multi-factor that's coming. I'm
going to put a disclaimer. I'm going to put a trigger alert. I'm going to put a please, I don't care what you have to say about what I'm about to say alert out here. I just watched this. Edward Snowden is now putting out videos, and he put out a video, and he's got good YouTube hooks. There's a video he put out about blah, 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 and it caught my attention. I watched it. I'm like, oh, Snowden. All right. So yes, everybody's listening to you. Nothing is private. Okay. All you privateers out there. And he talks about like how the phone company's been tracking everything and how governments bypass the rules just to go directly to this. Like everybody wants to track you. I get it. Right. But in Salesforce, we have clouds to collect that data and make sure that you make the right marketing and business decisions to serve your customer based on all that tracking. So we're out there, we're digital world. Until electricity goes away, you're being tracked. Okay. So object access, right, in the next part of the profile is just that. It's object access. And the 4 levels of object access for most profiles are create, read, edit, and delete. You create a record. You can just view only a record. You can edit a record. You can delete a record. That's a blanket permission for that object, right? And so depending on your permissions, you'll always forever and ever be limited to that permission. Does that make sense? Because that's all you can do. And the example I use in class is, the example I use in class is, think about your car and your driver's license, right? Your car is like a record. Your driver's license is your ability to drive in the state. So that license is like your profile permission. Your car is your car, right? And think about your car when you think about records and access to your car, right? The state says, your state usually says, the only people that can drive your car are people with a license to drive that car. Everybody get that? Like, that's the state allows you to drive a car or not, right? So transfer has to do with who owns the car, right? So Stephanie, the ability to transfer
A transfer title.
That's right. That's the title of your car. That's the record of your car. That's a good way to put it, right? The title is a record. You, and really your bank owns it, to be true most of the time, right? Unless you own your own vehicle. But when you're driving your car and a police officer pulls you over, they ask you for two things. Typically, they ask you for your license and what? Registration. So they not only want to make sure you have the right to drive, they also want to make sure that nothing's going weird with that car's registration. Like, they want to make sure typically you're the owner so that you're not a thief. That's how we do property rights in this country. Does that make sense? So the right to drive a car is different than driving a car. You have the license to drive the car, right? If you own the car, this is really good, Stephanie, because that's a good question. If you own the car, you have the title. That's your record of ownership, correct? Well, technically, you don't drive your car around with the title. You drive around with a proxy, which is called your registration. Because who owns the title of your car, really? The bank or finance company. Unless you bought it, and then you still wouldn't drive it because it's not protected. So you give less access to the actual title, because anybody can sign the title, then they own the car. In Salesforce, we do that with the owner of the record. The license to view that record, to edit that record, to delete that record, or create a record of that type comes from your profile. The ownership of that record, the title, goes to the record owner, the user that owns that record. Now, could a user own a record that they can't see? Sure, why not? I never tried it. I think it's a stupid concept, but fundamentally, until we test it, like, sure, why not? If they don't have
if it's not in their profile or their
yeah,
you have a rule that says you can't see this. You know what I mean?
no. There's no rules to stop somebody from seeing it. There's only one place for rules for that, right?
Okay. Well, that was.
I mean, it's a better way to say it is there a record someone could own that they can't edit?
Oh yeah, I was thinking field security. Sorry.
Yeah, no, right. It's fine too. So yeah, there's definitely situations where people own records that they can't edit, right? And for sure, there's situations that people own records that they can't delete. So I haven't tried the read. Like, I never thought about trying that. Maybe we could try it. Be a fun thing to do live. So again, every record in Salesforce has an owner, and every owner is a user, and every user has a profile. Does that chain of events kind of make sense? So regardless of ownership, they're still controlled by profile and what they can see and do. All based on profile. Just like your ability to operate vehicles in this country is limited by your driver's license, right? So I use my motorcycle as an example, because I think, does anybody here have a motorcycle license? A license to operate a motorcycle? Anthony does, right? You ride a bike anymore, Anthony? We talked about this. You had a Sportster, right? What do you have?
Breakout.
A what?
Breakout.
Never heard of it.
A Harley.
Which one is it? Oh, you have a Harley. Okay.
Harley Breakout. Go Google
Oh,
it.
is that new?
No, it's been around for 4 or 5 years.
All right. New to me. So if Anthony was pulled over by a cop riding my motorcycle, half of Anthony's behavior would be legal. Right? What part is legal? He's got the right from the state to ride a motorcycle. Profile, yes. Profile could, yes. Well, because he's got right. But if I didn't give him permission, he just broke the law. Right? If I didn't, because that's wrong to drive someone else's vehicle without their permission, correct? So in Salesforce, record access links directly to the owner of the record. Again, let's say I give my motorcycle to Stephanie, right? She doesn't have a license to drive the motorcycle, but I gave it to her. I signed over the title. Can she own that motorcycle? Sure. But can she drive it? No. Right? So ownership doesn't dictate access. Your access is still controlled by your license and your in Salesforce, it's your profile. Your profile controls even what you can do as an owner. Like you as a parent, I think Kyle, you have kids. Anthony, I think you had kids. I'm not sure if you had kids.
Yep, still 2.
Still 2?
Yeah.
Right?
Hard to know.
Your kids think they own stuff. They don't own anything. They think they own it, but they don't. Not legally, not according to the laws of our country, given the laws of your state, right? They don't own anything until they're what? 18. Technically, that's the age of majority. Now, if you get them emancipated, like I was at 16, fine. But the ownership, you're still limited by your profile. So that's always going to be true. Just like if I just lend my motorcycle to Katerina, I'm sharing it with her. I'm not giving it to her. She doesn't have a license. She still is not legal to drive it. Does that make sense? So sharing, if you think about sharing your vehicle, there's 2 ways you share your vehicle with others. As a rider, think read only, and as a driver. Right? You share your vehicle with, does anybody not let other people in their car? Or you have a smart car? Stephanie, the organization. Wait a minute. What question? Based on profile, overrides ownership. Who controls the record if the owner can't edit? It's a great question. The parent of the user might have control to edit that record. So if your kid owns a guitar, you could sell it on them. And they can't sell it legally. I mean, it happens, but not legally. But what if they don't have a role? Okay, that's a great question. The syndicate. That's only for custom objects, not standard objects, Stephanie. So in a custom object, you can control whether the parent can inherit that record or not. But it would be a weird situation. But you asked, the question was, if the user doesn't have the ability to edit a record, but they own it, who can edit it would be the parent. Somewhere along the line, somebody would need edit access to that record. Now, not necessarily, and the one way to do it is the role above the parent, right? All parents inherit ownership rights of all standard objects, and that's in the sharing rules. So let me open up another tab real quick, because I think that's I want to leave this other one open. This is all good stuff. And that is all based on profile. The syndicate, I'm not sure what you're referencing exactly. So remember, every parent owns that record, just like the owner of the record below them. So in our role hierarchy, every parent owns the record just like the owner, but there can only be one owner. That's why roles are so important. Now, remember, role and profile are different. Role has to do with record ownership and record access only. Profile has to do with what you can do with those records. I'm going to do another one here. So the role in the role hierarchy, see if I got it right. So the only way to take somebody out of the role hierarchy, by the way, is move the user to a different spot in the role, or it's a custom. You can't turn off role hierarchy in standard objects. So when you look at all of the standard objects and all the roles in your chain, in the sharing settings, when you go to edit that, there is a feature to grant access using hierarchies for all the objects, but you can't adjust them for standard. They're just like a standard profile, right? So by default, all standard objects have the rule of role hierarchy, which is the parent inherits ownership. And that brings up, what does ownership give you that no other setting can give you? And you put it in the chat. Ownership gives you one thing that nothing else. Stephanie, you said it. It's the ability to transfer ownership. If you own a car, you have the ability to transfer ownership of that car, right? So think about it like a vehicle. It's really simple. Roles inherit ownership. And your only limitation is by your profile, because that's what your permissions are. If your uncle dies and leaves you a semi truck, you can't drive it anywhere, right? Does that make sense? So the role hierarchy is controlled by the OWD, because the default access to all records the user, the U in user, the U, don't OWN is controlled by the OWD. If a record is public read write, it's public read write for everybody in the organization. If it's private to everybody in the organization. And if it's read only, it's because it's read only to everybody in the organization. The only change to that, the first override is the role hierarchy. That's why the role hierarchy is here. Grant access using hierarchies. That's the first override to the OWD. How do you give access back to records when you have a restriction? See all the R's? Is the pirate way. These are all the R's, right? And cherry delete is a profile permission. The ability to delete a record comes with a profile permission. That's our object access. Read, create, edit, or in a contact, we let them delete, but only the ones they own. I hope y'all can see that on my screen, right? And it's object by object by object. The profiles are set, and it's object by object by object that the OWD is set. Does that make sense? Now, the other piece of the puzzle, which kind of gives you a little whiz bang hip-de-doo, is, okay, so we lock down a record so only the owner can do it, right? U.S. property rights. The owner controls that car. You own your car. Who are you going to let ride in it? That isn't, your parent. Who are you gonna let ride in it? Well, you might let your neighbors ride in, you might let your friends, you might let your coworkers, but they can just ride it. Are you gonna let your spouse, could be your wife, husband, brother, I don't, right? You let your spouse drive it? What about driving it? Let's call that editing, right? So can you take your car and share it with your neighbor's kid who's only 12 years old and let them drive it to the store? Can you do that legally? Right? So when you share a record, even if you tell the 12-year-old, yes, you can borrow my car, I'm sharing my car with you, do they have the license to drive? Right? So even if you share edit access with another user, any way you share it, that particular user, if they don't have the license to edit, the profile permission to edit inside that object, the most they'll be able to do is read it. Does that analogy work? So sharing, when we get down to sharing settings, because that's what this whole section is about, right? The first thing we're sharing is we're sharing edit rights. If you think about it, OWD is really sharing edit rights and then, of course, visibility rights. The second thing we're sharing is overrides to the default. Overrides to the default happen in the role hierarchy and they happen in the rules. The first two places they happen. Where do they happen in the role hierarchy? So the first sharing override happens in role hierarchy. The owner of the record, their parent owns it all the way. What else do we control in the role? Does anybody remember?
Record access.
Record access to the special snowflake kids that we got in our organization called contact, opportunity, and cases. So the owner in that role, so if I'm a sales engineer and I own an account, this is family court, right? So if your family got, right, if I own the account, but somebody else owns the children of a contact, I'm sorry, an account contact, an account opportunity, or account case, depending on your role in the organization, you can also control the access to those children as an override to your default access, which is why, if you notice, my contacts only have two choices, right? Why does the contact have two settings and opportunity and case have three settings?
Opportunity and case records can be transferred.
Nope, simpler than that.
The assignment.
Nope, simpler than that. Because in my sharing settings, my sharing, am I doing my clicky thing? Oh, I'm gonna hold on. My added little presentation assistant software that I paid $2.99 for, right? Because my contact is read only, my opportunity case are private. So in my role, I can't make a contact private because they're not private for everybody anyway. Everybody can see all contacts in the org anyway. So all I can override in this role is more than what's available. So if I change my OWD to contact, if I change my contact OWD to public read write, it's going to take a minute, right? What's going to be the impact on all my role settings? This should take a minute, but not longer. What's going to be the impact on all of my role settings now? It'll happen automatically, by the way, because it's declarative development, not code development. I'm just looking to see if my yellow banner is going away, because when it is, yay. Now my role, I'm referring to record access. What restricts record access is the OWD, and it's referencing records you don't OWN, your neighbor's car. And what opens it up is roles, rules, and manual sharing. So what's going to change? I'm going to use the same roles so nobody freaks out on me, because I know somebody will usually in the world today we live in. What happened to my contact? Why can't I override? Why can't I can't, the role, right? The role gives me ownership rights. And those rights of an account, when you own an account, you need to also define the ownership rights over and above the OWD settings for all the children you don't own, but you're the parent, you own the parent object, you own the parent record. So there's no contact here because there's no restriction on contacts. Contacts are now public read write. So there is no restriction on contacts. I need to make no definition of an override. So roles, records, there's an override nature to it. And again, if I edit the contact and make it, if I make contacts private, what's going to happen to my role hierarchy? My role hierarchy settings are going to have to be adjusted if I want to grant an override, or you could leave it default. Either way is fine. See if this will do it. Is that starting to make sense, everybody? Because that's fundamentally, and the only reason we're talking about this is the only way you can kind of see it in the org kind of thing. Like you can see it happening right now. That now the contact has 3 settings: keep it private, make it read only, or make it read write. If you own the account, what can you do with the child object? Hey, somebody's coming in. Just for those 3 child. That's right, because they're standard. It's a standard setting just for those 3 children. Everything else would be controlled by the role hierarchy and rules. This is just a special exception for that. Right? So every object gets affected by the OWD. Stephen, answer your question, Stephen. This extra step of overriding just allows you to not have to write rules for contacts, cases, and opportunities. The rule is in the role, if you will. And it's role by role. Because imagine if you had to write a rule for all the roles in your organization. So if you think about it, if you set everything to private in your organization and roles address the first override to the organization-wide defaults, because every person above you owns that record, it's controlled by the profile, end of story. The reason we're just talking about accounts, contacts, and cases is because in the standard design of Salesforce, the person that owns the account isn't limited as the only person that can own all the contacts, cases, and opportunities in the organization. And because most organizations are built on more than one person, right? You need to address that override role by role. And the only way to really do it is with all the rules you see below the OWD. The only way we really grant access outside the account, contact, and case and opportunity, that bubble is with rules. So we have rules to say groups of users can share groups of records, but all of those individual, let me finish, all those individual roles, that's, we're addressing that, but in the account contact opportunity, that's where most of the real business gets done in Salesforce. The account is the core object, the contact of the people that are there. Lots of people are going to sell to that one account, and lots of people have cases on that one account of your users that are going to need A, access to the account, no matter what your privacy settings are, and B, the account owner might need access to those children, and there's no way that one person can own the account and all of the opportunities, all of the cases, and all the contacts in those standard relationships. Question, Stephen?
So when you say, this allows you to not have to write, rules.
Yeah.
When you say rules, I mean, my thought would be you would control all this access via profiles, but I almost think you literally mean rules like sharing rules and team rules and manual sharing rules, that type of stuff. So is it better to do it by profile or literally create rules?
My screen shows you where all the rules are as it relates to record access. I'm only talking about what's on this setting, sharing settings. So your business has rules. Salesforce rules live in the sharing settings, right? You've got rules in your company about what you can share with who already, right? The university, you got rules about what information you could share with different people, right? Those are HR, those are HIPAA, those are state rules, those are university system rules. You have rules everywhere, right? When it comes to the record access in Salesforce, there's only one place we're talking about the rules, and that's here. The profile controls what you can do with that record once you have access to it. We're just talking about record access that the user doesn't own. Yeah, exactly. You've said a record is private. Only the owner can see it when you say it's private, right? So now you've got to figure out a way to override that record access. If you're the only person that can drive your car, that's fine for you. That might be totally fine. But if you're the only, but you got to think about in your company, is that true for, and you do it object by object. So object by object, data by data, you decide what the default level access is to that object. Given the user has the permission, what is their default? How do they get to that record? So another way to say it is this. What do they see when they see all accounts? Do you really want to see all accounts? All of them? All? Like Dane Cook used to have a bit, and I know, get it out. If you have an opinion about Dane Cook, go ahead, in your head, get it out. I get it. Okay. He had a bit that he said, get this offer. It's free. Matter of fact, you go to the App Exchange and you filter apps that you want to download by free. Has anybody ever done that? They're not absolutely free. They're free for 7 days. They're free for 30 days. But after that, it's going to cost you money. Even Salesforce, if you go to get an Essentials edition or any trial of any edition, I think you get it free for 14 days. But shortly thereafter, they're going to want money, right? So free doesn't always mean absolutely free. He did the joke in reverse. But you get what I'm saying, right? So freemium, that's right. Freemium is what you give to give somebody access to something so they get a taste, right? And then the first one's always free in some circles, right? So free, another way to say it is, so the access to the record is controlled by the sharing, the default access, right? And so whatever that default access is what all will refer to. Because they're saying regardless of owner, I want to see all the records that I have access to. Well, if you got 5,000 people in your organization, how are your users going to manage sorting through all that data? Right? So there's how do they do their jobs? You got to constantly flip from the settings in Salesforce to really understanding how people do their job. Like one of the things that's the hardest part of this class, the admin class, is all the different ways, all the different jobs everybody has that are attending the class. Now, if you're in one of my classes that I do for super users, I have my super user academy, and you're in one of my, I call it sales ops administration. So if you're doing sales operations and you're the administrator for your company, everybody in the class is in the same job. They're dealing with all the same issues and concerns as a sales operator, right? So that's very different than Cherry, who's recruiting and using Salesforce. And, why can't I see that, using Org 62 and trying to navigate around, right? This might help her understand why she can't edit certain things or can't delete certain things and all that stuff. But really setting up your own org, you want to sit in the seat of the user to kind of decide what do they need to see and do. So all doesn't necessarily mean all of the accounts, but rather all of the accounts that you're supposed to see to do your job. Not, right? So not all of them, just all that you're supposed to see, which is why we set record access so that A, overwhelm, and B, you don't see something you're not supposed to see. So that's one way to look at it. Does that make sense, everybody? Is it starting to make sense? Stephen Griffith, is that making sense to you? The problem is,
I mean, like I understand everything to a certain degree, but I still have like fuzziness over a lot of things.
Yeah. By the way, you're gonna ultimately, the way to really get some of this stuff, and Stephanie, it might be for you too, like the areas that you had trouble with is try to get in the seat of the affected user to see it. So yes, the page layout and the profiles control access inside that object. Another way to think of that is your access inside of a building. You might have access to the building, but not have access to every area of the building. That's kind of what your profile controls, your access. But in a particular, like in an office building, think about someone else's desk drawer, right? You might be in a cube farm or something like that, but someone else's, there's certain things that become more and more personal. You just know that I don't have access to that. That would be inappropriate if I got there. Versus, oh yeah, I need to be on this floor because this is where I do my job. So some things you have the ability to change, some things you have the ability to see, and some things are locked behind a door or a drawer. So that's what we're talking about, the record access. That's why it all begins with R, and the role hierarchy is the first override to the OWD. The override is the first, the roles define the first way to get over the OWD. And think private first, like think records are private, only the owner can see it, but other people need it. How do we override that? First way is the roles. And then below that are our rules. So our rules are about granting access to others that need the access, right? So, and whether they're in the role with me or not, like, so every US sales rep, every user that's assigned, let's look at the assignment right now. Every user that's in there, Anna, Frank, Marcella, Matt, Phil, what's the OWD setting for opportunities? The OWD for opportunities is private, right? We set it to private. There's my opportunity. It's private. So you got to ask yourself the question. If Anna owns an opportunity, can she see Frank's? Answer is no. Can Frank see Marcella's? How about Matt? Can he see Anna's? Why? Because it's private. Why? Because it's private. Right? It's in their garage. You can't see their motorcycle, where it should be in a garage. But like those US sales reps, can their parents see it? Yeah, who's that? Well, specifically, the users that can see and edit that record is Kathy Cooper. Kathy can see all of theirs, but they can't see each other's.
This was the analogy of the swim lanes from last week, right?
Correct. So if we're all just floating around the ocean, we could swim anywhere we want. Life is good. If we go to a private beach, that is your Salesforce. I had to come up with a new distinction, Anthony. Where there's a private beach, you need your username and password, your key card to get in, right? You need that, the lane, the IP, or your cookie to get in the private beach. You're still kind of swimming all wide open, just contained to your beach. But if you're the kind of person that needs water at a certain temperature during certain times, we'll group you up and give you access to the YMCA. And then when you swim, you got to stay in your lane. So all the swimming you're doing is in your lane, right? You got to stay in that lane. That's for access and for record access too, right? So these are my records. I can see them or I can edit them. Yeah. So Kathy can do everything with those opportunities. Matter of fact, I believe Kathy, no, she's still a sales user. So I don't think she could actually even delete those. Let's see, what's Kathy's profile? Cooper. So Kathy Cooper is a sales user, and sales users can't delete opportunities. So Kathy can't delete an opportunity, and she's a sales director, right? Even though she owns it, but neither can the owners under her. Even the owner of the opportunity can't delete it. So if we log in as Kathy to see how this is happening, we'll see. And how do you know if she has the permission or not? How do you know by looking at the screen she has permission?
If it'll show up in her list view.
No, that's the access. Wait, let me look at opportunities first off. So Kathy hasn't looked at any of opportunities, right? She's got, so when Kathy sees all opportunities, given what's there, she's only going to see the opportunities that are owned by her team.
Well, her and her team, right?
Yeah. Let me clone this list view for a second. By the way, love list views. Love them. You should learn them. Not going to get on that high horse, right? So now, so Kathy can not only see, so how does Kathy look at opportunities? So her access to opportunities is based on the organization-wide default, right? And her profile combined, right? So she's got to have access to the object, which we know she does, because we can see the tab. And she's going to filter. If the first filter of all list views is ownership. So that reinforces the owner of every record. So if it's all, that means any owner. Is what it should say is any owner of all the opportunities I have access to. Based on the OWD, right? Which would be too long. Then we've got, yeah, Stephen, you're right. Then we got my opportunities, which are the ones that she owns. So I don't know if Kathy owns any opportunities. And the answer is nope. So nothing's wrong with the list. And then there's her team. And why? How do we define her team's opportunities? Who remembers where that lives? How did that filter work for Kathy? Anybody know or remember?
Role hierarchies, they added the users underneath her.
Not role hierarchy. Not role
Account
hierarchy.
teams.
What's that?
Account teams.
Nope. It's much simpler than that. In that I don't know if I'll be able to do it now. Yeah, I might, because I'm logged in as Kathy. But you'll see all of these people that report. Oh, that's who she reports to. Oh, show me. See her team. Kind of, you're on the right. It's kind of, you're in that that world a little bit. Let's see.
Down a little bit more, managers in the role hierarchy.
No. It's all the people that report to her. This is a weird thing that's happening with, I don't know why it's acting like this in Lightning, but okay. So Kathy, when it says my team's opportunities, so remember we talked about manager groups on the sharing settings, is everybody on your records list can share records. That's what that means. But Kathy is the manager of Matt Wilson, Phil Smith, and Anna Bresson. That's who she manages on their user record, right? On each person's user record, there's a spot for their manager. It's a lookup field to their manager. See, everybody's got a manager. So when Kathy looks at my team's opportunities, it's everybody that reports to her as a manager, because she's above them in the role hierarchy. But that's slightly distinct from that. So when we talk about owner, we're talking about who reports to me from the HR point and who has records under them. Because in the role of US sales rep, I don't believe everybody reports. Oh, I can't see it. Oh, because I'm logged in as Kathy right now. So that's what that means, by the way. It means those opportunities, even though they're private, she can still see them. Why can she still see them? Because she's above them in the role hierarchy and she's above them as a manager. But that's filtered by, even if there were multiple people in Kathy's role, there's multiple people in the role below her she'll still have access to, but under all account access, not under my team's account access. That's not on the test, but that's just functional how that ownership, we're talking about the owner and the relationship of the owner as a user record, and what's hardwired in the user record is that direct manager. Does that make sense? Did I just blow up the water and make it muddy again? I was just trying to show you that let me log out as Kathy and see if I can get back to my other stuff. Record access is always defined by the user as the owner. And every user has a manager. So that's one way to filter records. But this, by the way, all of this matters too when it comes to reporting and forecasting and all that other stuff. So just understanding the foundational, that'll get more advanced later. But foundational concept of this is, what you got to remember is every record is owned by a user. Every user is controlled by their profile and what they can do with that record. Every record is owned by a user, and what that user can do is controlled by their profile, object by object. Was that clear things up a little bit? And again, think about your uncle giving you a motorcycle. Could you drive it or not? I mean, you could. That's called breaking the law or killing yourself, depending on the kind of motorcycle he gave you. And by the way, here's what I learned while I was in the hospital from my first motorcycle accident when I was in high school. One of the brothers of the Sacred Heart came from the school, came up to me, Brother Leo, as a matter of fact, who drove like a maniac, just for the record, came into my hospital room and said, "Oh, interesting fact, Dom, Nick," they called me back then. He said, "Did you know the Insurance Institute," this was back in 1984, did a study where they figured out that 100% of motorcycle riders at some point wreck. I was like, good, I got mine out of the way. Okay, so the access that you have to a record is the access you have to a record is determined by your profile. The access others have to your record is determined by your first, what are the OWD settings, and then what are the overrides to that? Steve S.
Yeah, can the screen you had up a minute ago where you were talking, where you're showing Kathy's team?
Yes.
What screen were you on? Because I thought it was under users.
It is in Kathy's user record. So Kathy's user record, there's a team in the related list, and it's everybody that reports to her and everybody that reports to her manager. So she reports to Allison. There's Kathy. Where's Kathy? I don't think she's here. So Kathy reports to Allison Wheeler, and Allison and everybody else that's on here, also reports to Allison Wheeler, and Allison Wheeler reports to John Wiseman. So that creates a team that would say it's Kathy's team.
And that's all from the manager field on the user.
Correct. That's all controlled by the users, because every user has a manager, which might not be the same person above them in the role hierarchy. Because you control the users in the role hierarchy. You control the users in the role hierarchy user by user. That's the thing about the role hierarchy. You can put a user from anywhere in the org into any role. There's no restriction on that. That's why a couple of the wrong answers on the test are just put those people in a higher spot on the role hierarchy. Stephanie, you remember those questions? Right? I can assign as an admin, I can assign any user to a role. As a matter of fact, there's a question on the test that says, how do you give the executive assistant to the CEO the ability to create and edit all records, but not, including transfer, but not delete them? Right? If I put, I don't know, do we have an executive assistant? Let's call it, it's not Rebecca. Let's call it Anya. We'll say Evelyn is the executive assistant, right? The executive assistant is now at the CEO level, which means how many records roll up to them?
All of them.
All of them. What controls what she can do to those records now that she owns them?
Rules.
Her profile.
Profile. The only thing that controls it is her profile. So what Evelyn can do with those records is going to be controlled by her profile. That she has access to those records is because of her role.
So it's a matrix then. We've got the role
It is.
hierarchy and we've got the profiles.
That's right. Now, if I go to Evelyn, I don't know what her role is, but now I know her role, right? Let's go look at Evelyn, because I don't know. Let's see. Now that I'm back to being an admin, what was her last name? Dang.
Cooper.
Evelyn was Cooper? No.
Oh, Evelyn. Oh, sorry. My bad.
Evelyn Katara. I just searched. Why do we use global search? This is a bonus. To find an individual record. Why do we use list views? To find groups of records. Why do we care about list views? Because working on the records that are all the same means you can do the same work. If you do all the same work at the same time, you'll be more productive and effective and efficient. Stop bugging me about it. Anyway, I'm just kidding. Let's see. She's a support user. I'm going to edit her record. And I'm going to take her from a support user to a no access profile. We're going to change her profile a couple of times, right? So she's in the role of CEO, right? But she's got the no access profile. Let's see what she can see and do. I don't even remember what's in the no access profile, but I think it's very limited access, like no access. All right. She's in the sales app. Are you looking at your sales app? Anybody remember the sales app? Look, sales app has, oops, I can't change it right now. You guys can. Your sales app has what? Opportunities, accounts. Where's all of that? She's in the sales app. Why can't she see it? Where are those tabs?
They're hidden.
Yeah, because why? She's the CEO of the organization. She has access to all records. Let's look and see what actual other objects she might have access to in her view all. That's it. These are all the things she has the access to that we can tell so far. Does that make sense about the profile? Like Evelyn can't see Jack because her profile says no taking your laundry. You can't do it. No, not for you. But she's at the CEO role, right? Starting to make sense? She's in the spot to see everything, but she's got no access to it.
Can
She's
I
got
ask?
blindfold on? Yeah, question?
Yes. It's kind of a two-parter, but I'll be quick. Number one, custom objects, and number two, sharing. If somebody shared with her, even though she has no access.
Yeah, again, you could share your car with a 12-year-old, but it's still not legal for them to drive. You could share opportunities with her all day long. She still can't see them.
Okay.
That makes sense? She's got no license for it.
Just trying to close the door on that.
Yeah. Whether it's custom. Now, you could give her access in her profile just to those custom objects, and she would see those, right? The recruiting app is one of those. The recruiting app has those custom objects. We haven't fully baked this yet.
Great example. That's right.
Right? In this org, we haven't done it. But again, we granted access to records that she doesn't own. Yep. She's got nothing right now, but I'm not sure because of her profile. So watch what happens when I give her the sales user profile. Yeah, go ahead, Stephen.
So like I understand you have access to stuff based on either your ownership or your role hierarchy. And I understand that your profile allows you to, do or see things, records or whatever. Mm-hmm. But I thought sharing opened up access. So even if your profile didn't allow you to see it, if someone shared it with you, it should allow you to see it. But it seems like you just said that wouldn't be the case.
There's a baseline for everything. The profile is your baseline as a user. That is your baseline access. Now I made Evelyn a sales user, right? So your profile controls your baseline access to everything in the organization. That's your license, right? You don't have a license to drive a motorcycle or an 18-wheeler. That's your baseline access to buying a car, right? Don't you make your decisions based on what you're legal? You don't have the access to drive a rocket ship. That's limited to a very few people who've gone through the training and qualifications and licensing by this company we call NASA and this weirdo called, like, you could fly a rocket for Elon Musk if he lets you, but that's because that's the only licensing. Same thing with planes and all that stuff. Now look at Evelyn. Evelyn can see everything that a sales user can see. And all we did was change her profile.
So what's the point of sharing? Why don't you just manage everything through profiles?
Because we're now talking about records you don't own. Okay, everybody's got a driver's license. Are you going to let everybody drive your car with a license?
I think of it as being able to get the gate key, the key code to enter into a gated community, but you can't go into every house until
Right.
somebody gives you a
Good way to
key
put
for
it.
the front door.
That's right. Now look, this is Evelyn, right? She went from no records showing, no tabs showing, to now she has the change owner button on her account that's owned by Phil Smith. Why does the change owner button show on this Acme New York account?
She got that through the sharing from
Of the role hierarchy.
the role hierarchy.
She inherited that owner permission because her user record is above everybody else that owns accounts. So the parent inherits the child's stuff. Again, anybody with kids, if you ever want to like state your purpose as an adult and distinguish the difference, throw all their stuff away. You got to rebuy it because they're going to complain and you got to live with that little monster because the law says you have to. You got to keep them in your house, right? But at 18, you no longer are legally required to keep them in your house. You could change the locks on their 18th birthday and they have no right to be in your house anymore. But at 17 and 364 days, they will lock you up if you don't let that little monster in. Now, there's other things people deal with that, right? But the point is, the role gave her record access. That's why the R's are so important. The role gave her record access. The rules override the OWD. Correct. Sharing's only for a record. That's why in the sharing model that if you go back to forget everything you know about roles, rules, and teams, and go back to mine is mine, yours is yours. Go back to 3rd grade or really 3 years old when the first kids to learn mine. Every owner, right? Let's say only owners can, everything is private. Every record's owned by an owner. The only way you can give it to another user is to manually share it. Right? Every car is owned by the person on the title, on the registration. So anybody that drives your car is because you manually shared it with them. So record access, Stephen, you're right on. It's everybody that has a license to drive a car can drive their car, but you can't drive their car unless they give you the permission, unless they share it with you. That right? So yeah, so that's exactly right. Now, if notice though, Kathy, she can change owners, but she can't delete this record. She owns it, but can't delete it. How come?
OWD.
Nope. No, the OWD gave her ownership of Phil's record. The OWD gave her, but what gave her the ability? That's what gave her the change owner button. The override of ownership is the role hierarchy, right? Ownership rolls up the chain. So anything an owner can do, everybody in the role above them can do. But why can't she delete it? She owns the record.
Because of her profile?
Her profile doesn't have delete permissions in that object.
Right.
You do not, listen, cops, maybe this will help. Cops, let's call speeding the delete key. Fair enough? So when I say speeding, I mean the delete key. Who has a license to drive a car and speed legally?
No one.
Yes, somebody does. and they
Cop?
abuse it. Cops.
Oh yeah, they do that all the time.
Exactly. You're not a cop. You can't speed until you're a cop or have a badge. By the way, I'm putting the word out. Anybody know a cop organization that wants some free training and in exchange for not money, but a badge? I mean, a real badge, carry a gun badge, not like a fake badge. I want a badge. Why?
Look,
I want to
training.
I want to speed again.
Yep.
I miss it. And I'll tell you why. And I'm jealous of my brother. My brother's an engineer. He's a civil engineer. It means he does buildings, static things. But he's got a friend down in Louisiana. I'm not gonna tell you which brother. He's got a friend in Louisiana because my dad knew my dad grew up with a judge. How I got my tickets fixed. That gave him a coroner's badge, not a cop badge. A coroner's badge. Clearly the only public official that does not need to be in a rush. Right? Really, you don't need to be in a, you got to get there, but you ain't got to speed. My brother got pulled over doing 107 on his way to his house, doing something between Baton Rouge and his house. And the cop pulled him over. He flipped out his badge. And the cop said, well, what do you need to be in a rush for? And my brother, in his infinite intelligence, said, I'm an engineer and I'm a coroner because I'm going to evaluate a bridge that might be dangerous. So let me get your badge number down so I can tell the governor that you stopped me from going to check out a bridge that might fall at any second. And I can make sure I can pin it on you. That was his response to a coroner shouldn't be driving fast. And the cop said, get out of here. Right. So I want a cop badge because my brother doesn't have one. That's what I want. The same thing Elvis did with Nixon, just so you know, I want a Fed badge. So, but the point is, just because you can drive a car doesn't mean you can speed. Let's call that delete. But a cop has sort of the right to do that in an emergency when they have the lights on and stuff, right? So they have the permission to speed technically in an emergency, correct? Why can't Evelyn delete this record? She doesn't have a license to speed. She's not a cop. How would we give Evelyn the permission to delete or speed individually as a user? What's the one thing we can give Evelyn the badge? How do we give Evelyn a badge? Permission set. Right? Otherwise, we'd have to change the profile for everybody. So a good way to think about this is this an all or one setting? Right? Profiles control all the users in that group. A permission set, you can grant to one user. Right? Record access is only for the owner of that record. Think of it that way. Think of every record is only accessible, or think of it this way: everything inside your house. Everything inside your house is yours. It's private, isn't it? Until you give someone else a key. What are the keys? We give them a spot above us in the role hierarchy. We should have rules that share our stuff with them under two conditions based on who owns it or the condition of the record itself. And then the other exceptions that we do are teams and manual sharing. So fundamentally, most of our records are shared by roles and rules when there's a restriction. When there's no restriction, this whole conversation doesn't matter. But roles and rules share records as a system administrator. Roles, rules, and then the record owner is the other way we share it. Roles, rules, and the record owner. That's a good R. How do you share records? The record owner shares it, the role shares it, and the rule share it. But think of it from the record owner first. What are the two ways that a record owner shares their records? And this, by the way, is now active in Lightning. They can click the manual sharing button themselves, right? And look, it's also shared with one group of users. So we can see what's happening with this record. That's a rule, right? Because it's a rules control groups of records, with groups as part of a group. So I can share as the record owner to anybody I want, anywhere I want in the organization. either a user, a public group, a role, or role subordinate. I can share that record because I own it. I decide who gets to use my car. Yes, that's what Enterprise and National and Avis and Hertz do. They own the car, but they decide who to share it with. They own the car, so they can do it. What's another way we made that life easier for them was the team. The record owner can choose the team. They can add team members to that record.
That's for accounts and opportunities and service or cases.
Accounts, opportunities, and cases. Oh,
Yeah.
my beautiful, lovely wife. Say hello to everybody. Is that throat coat for me? You heard how loud I am. I got it. Thank you so much. Say hello to Amy. Where's Pearl? That's mother of Pearl. We got to show you Pearl before we leave.
Where's Pearl?
She's napping hard. Our puppy had a guest 2 nights ago. She's part French Bulldog and half Boston and half Boston Terrier. She's a French.
Gotta see Pearl.
She's a French ton. I'll see if I get a picture. You can bring her down before. Well, how long we got to this class? Okay, let me see how much longer.
5 minutes.
No, we have 10. Oh, we have 15 minutes. I can go a little longer if you want to bring her down. Because of the thing, it's cold and rainy out. You don't want to go? All right. So we're not going to eat barbecue then? All right, we'll go to Smoke and Gold for lunch. Okay, fine. I have a barbecue fix that's supposed to happen soon after this, but I'm good with this. So again, how do we share records? Think about it like your car. I'm the owner of my car. Who do I share my record with? Right? Let's just say you share it with your parents. That's automatic. Then who else? Well, share it with my spouse because they live with me and they'll be mad if I didn't let them drive it. So they have edit access to your car. They can drive it. Everybody else is a passenger. You can either set that by default or you could set it individually. But the record owner can use teams, right? They choose the user. They choose the role, which, by the way, doesn't drive the access. It doesn't control the access. It just kind of it communicates with everybody what their job is on this account team. And then they control what that user can do with the records to the limit of their own ability. So if I give this Evelyn person the role of account manager, I might give her read-write access to all of the account, right? Now, why did I do that? And I'm not Phil. I don't own the record. I'm not Phil, but I just added Evelyn to the account team with all that access. Why was Evelyn able to do that on Phil's account? Just for the record.
Because Phil reports to her.
He does not. He reports to Kathy Cooper as his manager.
Oh.
But why did Evelyn get to add herself to that account?
Is CEO role?
All objects, because she has the role of CEO. And as an account owner, you can add your account team. So everybody above that account owner can add to Phil's account team any way they see fit because they own that record. What they say is just as valid as what Phil says. They can even change the owner if Phil doesn't like it because they're above him. They're your parent. They're the parent. It has nothing to do with the reporting for the manager. Evelyn is a user with the license above that record owner in the role hierarchy. That's it. So that's at the core of and why she can't delete. This is the CEO and the executive assistant, right? Why she can't delete? Her profile gives her no license to speed. She can drive, she can ride, she can view, she can edit, but she cannot delete because she has no license to do that. And all the buttons on there. The exception, Stephen, with the 4 objects, the account, contact, opportunity, and case, has to do with those are really the core objects of Salesforce. Account and contact are the universal objects. Opportunities are in the Sales Cloud, and cases are over in Service Cloud. So they live in, you can get access to them. Why that matters, it won't matter here, but it matters later, like when you're architecting. It matters so when you're deciding what licenses the company buying Salesforce needs to buy, you can literally limit access to save money and negotiate the pricing you pay. So that's a distinction that comes with sales solution engineering at Salesforce. But put yourself in, whenever you have a record question, put yourself in the recipient of the rule or the role or the profile, so you get a sense of it with real data, like real records. One of the ones we did in class, if you remember, was, and this is just like that Evelyn record, right? It goes one step in reverse. Remember, we have that one record where you can see it down here. We share positions that are open, not the new, not the closed, just the ones that have the status of open with all of our VPs, and they have read only. Okay. So let's just do that one quick example, because this was the one that profoundly changed my relationship to the security model. And I want to thank Andrew, whatever your last name is, who certified me as a trainer for Salesforce. But as Allison Wheeler, right, the only access, so here's my sharing setting. My rule is share open positions with VPs of sales, with VPs, right? My baseline access to positions is private. So only the owner of that record would see it. But as Allison Wheeler, if I go to the positions object, forgot it. Oh. If I went the long way, I know. If I went to the positions object, I created a position as Allison, so you could see the difference. So I could see the US sales rep position because it's open. I, Dominic, own it because that's how it's set it up in the org, right? But really, one of the recruiters should own it. Who are one of my recruiters? Javier? Oh, she can't do it. She can't do it anyway. I'm logged in as Allison. Now, here's the other conundrum. It's not really that conundrum-y. Just want you to think about it for a second. I'm Allison Wheeler. I can see the open record. I can see that I've got, what is my access level in the rule? My access level is read only, right? So that open position was shared with me, Allison Wheeler. Where's that now? Oh yeah, right? Can she edit it? Can she delete it? That's my question. Why not? She's got the buttons.
She's not the owner.
Read only.
If you share your car with your neighbor, the good neighbor, not the other one. We don't like the other one. If you share your car with the good neighbor, can they get it painted?
No,
Can they get it? Can they sell it?
no,
They shouldn't, right? Not legally. So even
not the
though,
owner.
so here's where there's a little bit of sometimes confusion. But if she tries to change anything on that record, she's going to get an error message, because that's not how I shared my car with you. You don't ask, and I got a buddy of mine, Kip. Kip's one of those dudes who likes to drive. You know, anytime you go somewhere as a couples, there's that one guy that has to drive. Awesome. That means I have to drink, so I ain't driving now. So Kip likes to drive, but if Kip gets in an Uber, a Lyft, or some other shared service, a cab even, a bus, he can't drive that car. That system only allows for you to be a rider, not a driver. Enterprise, Hertz, Avis have a system to let you borrow a car and drive it. Uber and Lyft only give you the right to read only it in the back seat. If you're Uber, Lyft if you're a front seat if you're a Lyft person, right? Give them the bump. So that's what we're doing. We only gave her access to, right, to read and write it. But the other position, the other one, the one that she owns, right? She can edit that position all day. Why? Because sales 200. Because it's her position. Or she could even give that position to Kathy Cooper. See, I can't even, by the way, that answered one of y'all's questions, and even our question. Can you grant access to somebody who doesn't have the profile permission at all? And the answer is no. So she
That's
can't
cool.
even,
That's
what's that?
cool. That's
Yeah,
very cool.
I can't change the owner. I might be able to share it with her, but I can't. She doesn't have read access on her profile at least, so she can't even see the record. So Kathy would never see this position. She would probably only see the job applications and the interviewer. If she was an interviewer, you could have all those rules set it up that then there's all kind of Gordian knots you can give to have her get access to it. But she's the hiring manager for that position, which means she's probably going to need to be one of the reviewers. I don't think that's going to open up access to her.
Hey, Dom, while you're cooking this, and we got a few minutes left, I just wanted to see what your thoughts are on the frequency with which we would be going through making modifications to the role hierarchy and the profiles. This is pretty much a build
Setup.
it and setup, initial setup, your blueprinting, and then your project. Mm-hmm.
However, you could run into, it's a great question, by the way. So your question is, how often do we have to worry about this? Really, only in setup. Two exceptions, setup and review. So as an admin, if you're doing that job for any size organization, but this really applies to smaller organizations as much as larger organizations typically have a process for this. And Stephen and Kyle, and I know, Cherry, you might not have been a part of it before, but there's usually somebody managing governance. Right. Governance is who gets to make changes once you've made all the decisions about how it's set up, right? You have some kind of system for review. That's typically called in the world of governance. You all agree with that? Okay. So the governance would then have some kind of review on a regular basis to see if the profiles, permission sets, sharing rules are still working. Now, in reality, you'll just get complaints. You'll get noise from your users that they want something that they don't have, or they want something taken away from something somebody does have. They want it removed from somebody else. If you get enough of those, if you track that as data, that might give rise to review, what these settings are individually. But typically the two things people do to override that quickly and easily is they'll move somebody into a different role so they have the right record access, if that's the right answer. Usually it's not. Or they'll grant them a permission set or a permission set group to have them do whatever their job needs done. So it's a good question, but yes, you only need to cram most of this to get in your head to take the test. Because understanding roles and rules in its practical application, roles and profiles in practical application, you're just pretty much following the river, right? Most of that stuff is pretty much everybody's doing mostly the same stuff anyway, right? You've already got it organized. Sales does this, service does that. Executives, oh my God, can we get them to do something correctly? Maybe, I don't know, right? All of that. And when you got it set up, it's pretty much set, pretty much. But you should review it on some level or consistent basis if you're the owner of the org. If you're the admin that really, and very few admins, especially at this class level, are anywhere remotely close to that responsibility. Once you get down to basics and advanced and maybe have a couple other certs, you would probably be useful in that position. Now, small company, 5 to 50 users. Yeah, there's a lot of people who aren't trained even as much as you are handling all this stuff, making really bad decisions out there. So a couple things I want to address that we would, but that's the security model as like a way to practically episode. So I know, Stephanie, you asked about things like, I don't remember seeing those questions. They might have released a new test. I don't, and they don't necessarily update the free practice test. I mean, not the free, the $20 practice test that I used in class last week. So I don't know, like, what's the current, I can't take it again. So was there a specific question you had about flows and process builder and something else? Because I do recall, Patrick, you've taken the admin practice with me recently. So that, and I've gone through it with Anthony recently. Do you remember any of those that you had a challenge with? Stephanie still there?
Oh, it was me. Sorry, it's Katarina.
Katarina, I'm sorry.
No, you're good. It was, so it gave you a scenario and it said what was the best practice for it, and there was actually 3 questions with flow like as the answer choices. But I don't remember specifically what they were, but I was going to review flow and do the trailhead on it. I just didn't even read about it.
I don't think you need that much flow, because typically what they do is, in my experience, like how, and because I got to address this with all of you in class, and I try to do it otherwise. The way that it, like the way that I'm noticing, because I was annoyed the first time that all the information is not in there, but it is in a lot of different ways. And so I'm just going to, so if you go to my, if you go to this URL that I'm putting up there, Stephen and Kyle and Cherry, don't do this until after Friday. Because this will, I got to change that to free assessment. Because what I'm doing here for my company is I'm filtering for where someone's at in their skill set. Like I'm running the, like, I know you can cram for the cert and then within weeks kind of forget all how you apply it. I mean, I'm clear about that. And so I'm not, so when somebody wants to work with me, I give them another assessment. And so it's 103 questions that I've curated from taking practice tests in Salesforce. So now I'm just looking to see where flow shows up, because I have a pretty good bank of questions. Not workflow. Oh, flow.
I just put a link in the chat to the Salesforce automation cheat sheet. It has a pretty good breakdown of the different features of each one. If you see anything on the test about outbound message, that's workflow.
Right.
Yep.
Perfect.
And if you see anything about deleting records, that's flow.
Yeah. I'm looking for just flow.
Oh, that's a good tip. Thanks.
Yeah. So there's an audit. So workflow rules or automation, auto response, auto assignment or automation, case assignment rules or automation. We're going to cover all that in the basics. Then there's approval process, flow, process builder, which we cover in class, and then Apex code. So if you think Visualforce is kind of automation, but it can mix. Visualforce is just a web page. So, but it's really limiting to make sure you know about workflow, process builder, auto assignment, auto response, and something else. They do have a question still sneaking around that references approval process. Yes, I don't have any answers that are just flow. So that might be a different question, but if it, and I think I remember seeing it from one of our videos, but I don't, as I go through, I don't see flow as an answer. That means I haven't, because I copy and paste. When I take the $20 Salesforce test, I copy and paste the questions into a Word document, and then I see if I have them here so that I'm getting the right, I'm getting the full bank of questions. So I got a bunch, they're not there, but this is still a good 104 questions. So that should help you get the other ones right. But when it comes to flow, that's a great cheat sheet in that flow, basically, you can find records, you can update records, you can add records, and you can delete records. Process Builder, you can edit records and update records. You create records, you can update and update records a little more broadly than you can in workflow. Workflow can only update fields on the record or the parent record associated with it. So if the workflow, we're going to do this in automation. Workflow works on an opportunity. Opportunities always have a parent of an account. You can update fields on the account and the opportunity. Process Builder, you can update fields on the user record, any record related to that record, you can update. Whereas Flow, you can really update any record or delete a record or create a record. Apex, you can do all that stuff, but that's outside the scope of the class. So that might be helpful, by the way, in that regard. I don't know where that link went, Patrick. I'm looking for it right now. I mean, I clicked it, but I didn't.
Hey, thanks, Patrick. This is good.
So that little cheat sheet, I don't see where the cheat sheet showed up for me.
It's in the chat window.
No, it's in there. I know it's in there. I was looking for where it showed up on my browser, like my window that I'm sharing.
And I think that Terry from Terry's Tidbits has a similar one that's a little more visual. I'm going to see if I can find that one.
Yeah. So this is good, right? But these are the basics about it. And there's more. Yeah, that's a good cheat sheet. I'm going to print that now. So, listen, can I make a recommendation, Katerina?
No, absolutely. I got to pass the next time.
Yeah, I would look at where you, like the areas that you missed, right? They give you a percentage. Anything less than 100%, I would then go to the exercise guide and the student guide that you have in Mimeo and look for anything related to those topics. So it'll be in the section, right? So you can go to student guide and find the section that they're talking about. And then in the exercise guide, I would look to see everything that touches first. And then when you're following the exercise guide, Kyle, we talked about this, Steve, we talked about this as well, right? It's kind of, you're like, I don't understand what I'm doing. Fine, just do it. Because when you get there and you start reading the screen and looking at the help docs, if you need to deepen it, something's going to connect eventually, or something around it is going to make sense to you on the screen in the system, right? So just like sharing a record manually, if that helps you understand why we created teams, rules, and role hierarchy, they're just, think about it as time savers for that individual user that's to share it with those 100 people in the organization every time they have a record, right? It's a team. I can add those 7 people to this account every time I create an account instead of having to do it manually. I can have it happen automatically. Because remember, here's my philosophy. Computers are dumb. They only do exactly what you tell them. But if you find yourself doing the same thing over and over again, the question is, who's dumb? Why don't you find a way to tell the computer to do that for you? Right? That's smart. Use the computer for what it's designed for. Create the guidelines and it'll follow exactly every time. Right? So these are all the tools Salesforce gives you when you understand that at the core of every record is the user. Because every record has an owner that's a user. And ownership matters in Salesforce, unless you say it doesn't. If ownership doesn't matter, if record ownership doesn't matter in your company, then your organization-wide default would be read, write, transfer for everything that you can, because ownership doesn't matter, right? But if owners matter, if owners designate something, then you have to address it in the OWD, and then the way you give it back, right? That kind of thing. And then everything that owner can do is controlled by the profile. Now, the one exception that I think I didn't complete the statement, I just triggered my head. My COVID brain might not be completely recovered, is that Allison Wheeler can edit and delete position records that she owns. She has the permission, but in sharing, the rule said she can only read only. So which one's always going to work? Whichever is more restrictive, right? Whatever scenario is more restrictive is going to be the one that Salesforce will default to. And again, if you lend your car to somebody and, you know, they don't have the right to sell it. But if you're driving for Uber and somebody gets in your car, they only have the right, they might have a license, but they don't have the right to drive your car. They can only sit in it, even though they have a license to do it. Not in your car, not on your record, sir. Not on my record. So I hope that's helpful. Katerina, any other questions about, except for flow, that I'd love to hear with the question. Now I want to, maybe I could proxy for somebody. I could take the test. No,
I was literally, no, it was, I remember it was a 2-part question. It was like, if you do this, and then it was something like along the lines of to make this automatic flow, you have to do this in the process builder and then add this in the flow. And flow was on flow was on B and D, and process builder was in the moment was the right answer. But I just didn't know if the additional part of it was to add the flow.
So here's the tip that I would say about that. If Salesforce gives you an answer about something that we've never even addressed in the class, it's probably not the right answer. Now, you will say, well, what about the question they have about approval process? Well, here's where we address it. When we get to automation, those of you that haven't been there yet, one of the things we say that Process Builder can do is do what? It can kick off an approval process. So while we don't go there for you, that's how you have to read deeper into the materials to get everything they're talking about. So when we talk about, I'll just do it right now. When it comes to like flow, right? One of the challenges with flow is in order to create a flow, besides being the admin, you have to give that feature license to somebody, just like the marketing user license, right? Those are feature licenses to actually create flows, just like it's a feature license to create knowledge articles that you have to buy from Salesforce. Otherwise, your users can use it. But in Process Builder, remember, we haven't done this with my class, so mine's not going to be there. But when I create a process on an object, when a record changes, right? Remember and I got to do a little setup first. Oh, I don't know if I don't want to do it in this object because I don't want it to be messy for class. I'll go back to set. I don't want to oh, look who's here. Hold on, everybody. Come here. Here's our little queen princess.
She's a little trembly.
And that's the mother of Pearl handing her to me.
Oh.
There's our little wombat. Here she is. This is Pearl. I got her right here. There's Pearl.
Oh, what a cutie.
So she's half French Bulldog, half Boston Terrier.
Oh, yeah.
So she's as active as a Boston Terrier, but only for a few minutes, not like for hours like a Boston Terrier. Here's my little lumpkin. She doesn't like being down here.
I had to wake her up.
And she's sleepy from Thursday night. Anyway, so, oh, look, it's already there. So I might as well go for it. All right, hold on. Oh no, I can delete it. Okay, if I can delete, I forgot I can delete it. Okay, let me go into it then. So when I go to an object, I'll do opportunity. And I say, run this flow process anytime a record, blah, blah, blah. It's going to say, no, I'm going to say no criteria. Just run the formula. Right. So my rules for taking action are going to be, one of the actions is submit for approval. Right. So while we don't go through the approval process, submitting for approval shows up as an ugly little, I don't know if it's still doing it, but it was showing up as an ugly little answer that was correct. And so sometimes, depending, I'll just tell you guys that the way I do it is when we do workflow rules, because we do spend a lot of time with workflow rules, and that's typically the answer, by the way, workflow rules. Sometimes process builder if you need to do something else. These are the 4 actions of every workflow rule. You could create a task, send an email, update a field, or send an outbound message, which is an API call. I'll say these are the same 4 actions that approval processes take because they're from the same family of automation, right? So approval processes, if you go look at them, and I'm not saying you do, I'm saying you probably should, but you don't have to because I'm giving you the answer. In the approval process, when you get into an approval process, again, we got to create it and blah, blah, blah. The only actions it takes is from same actions as workflow rules. So it's just one of those things that it's lingering from the old admin test, but now that we're teaching admin for Lightning and there's more to do with Lightning, some of the old classic questions are still in there. That might have got you too, Katarina. Did you notice there's some weird questions? You're like, it doesn't make any sense, right?
Yeah.
For example, what I try to say is that user interface settings are settings that mostly apply, like the question about list views. Come on, browser. I don't know why my Chrome browser just does not like this setup. What are you doing? So user interface settings, most of those settings still only really apply to Classic. Most of them still really only apply to Classic. But because Classic's still available, I think they're testing you on a segment of Classic to know like, oh, this, that, and the other thing. Like, for example, the sidebar. In Classic, you can collapse the sidebar, but you got to enable it. That's one of the big ones that we taught for Classic because your users need to see it. They need to be able to do all that stuff. So if you save that and then switch your users to Classic, they can then see, they can control that little side section, right? So that little side panel right there, by default, it doesn't really, not gonna, there it is. So my little side panel, people tend to miss that little booger, right? That's a little bitty, right? If they don't know Alt S, I used to teach Alt S. Is that my Alt? There it is. Learning my Mac keyboard, right? So if you have somebody that, oh my God, Zoom is killing me. And why is oh, there it is. So that little Alt, like being able to give yourself some screen space is a big deal, right? But that's a user interface setting and affects all users have it now available to them. So it's just something you got to do. Now, the last little thing that I know I want to address that Kyle, you brought up was MFA. And I don't know, I've been dismissing those messages. What I remember about MFA comes from 2 years ago when I completed the trail on security, which is a big old trail. But in there is something about multi-factor authentication. And I think what it's saying from what I remember, but I don't know, I haven't seen it yet. Learn about it, understand your options, watch the video. There's a community doing it.
Yeah, I think there's a requirement. You got to have it in place. Salesforce says it needs to be in place by a certain date this spring.
Yeah. So that's, I'm going to do a video on that for admins that I'm marketing to take my coaching training program.
And there's a webinar scheduled on Tuesday.
Yeah. So that's, this is.
If you have a real org with real data that you care about, you should definitely have multi-factor.
Yeah, we're required to do it for us. We have to set it up. So
there's a setting under company settings for critical updates. And basically Salesforce gives you a warning. Oh, now they're release updates, but they give you a warning about what needs action, what's due soon, what's overdue, and what's not, what they've done if you haven't done. So you have the ability to kind of go through all of these and, require verification when external users change their email address. Shoot, we still do that now. And then you can, again, it all tells you where, and then they give you guidance and stuff. And as an admin, you really need to learn all that stuff. Like you need to learn how to do this stuff, but you learn that after you understand the structure and capabilities of Salesforce. So yeah, there's that little thing is fun, but that's it. How was this useful for you guys today? And by the way, I'm still good. I'm not chasing anybody off, but has this been helpful?
Yes.
If you haven't registered for my readiness assessment, Stephen, Kyle, and Cherry, wait till Friday.
Right.
I'll send it to you. But you can register, but just it's not really it's not set up like a good marketing campaign right now. You can't get back to it. So I would say wait until after Friday, and then to take it, and then that'll tell you a bunch of stuff. And then Katerina, you hadn't taken that one yet, right?
No, I didn't. Can you send the link over?
All right, let me send it again. Hang
on. Just make sure that you carve out a little bit of time because I got around the 70, question number 70, between 70 and 80 or something. And I started to, my window of visibility, my brain started to.
I should probably say plan on, let's see, it's 103 questions, a minute and a half each. That's 103 and a half. It's 103 minutes plus it's 150 minutes, which is over 2 hours. You should plan on 2.5 hours to take it, like at the pace that you would take it if you were taking just 60 questions. Is that right? 150, 100, whatever that number is. I'm not good with math.
2 hours.
What's that?
120 minutes is 2 hours and another 30 minutes.
2.5 hours.
Yeah.
So eat your Wheaties before. There's no time limit on it, but know that I don't have a mechanism yet to go back and like pick up where you left off. But you do, after you take the assessment, you can schedule 30 minutes with me to go over your answers. Because somebody else bailed on an appointment, I had time and I spent even more time with Anthony. And I did publish that on my YouTube archives. So you can actually go and watch me walk him through his wrong answers. I'll walk you through your wrong answers, but I walk him through his wrong answers. We actually go test a few. And by the way, props to Anthony, we found a few mistakes. So that I had made, because I always make some mistakes. We validated several of them, right, Anthony? I think we changed like 4 or 5 answers.
Yes, sir. It was good. It was definitely a worthwhile.
Which is why I'm not promoting it and selling it or anything right now. I'm validating it because to me, like there's 3 answers on that test that I would disqualify. If you got 100 of them right and you pick 3 of them and you got those wrong, I'm never going to hire you because they say you understand bad ways to do things that I don't want to cause that kind of damage.
Yeah.
So,
Hey, where did you say that you where did you plant that video of ours?
Ooh, let me show you. Ooh.
because I'm looking on your YouTube page, all 6 subscribers. We need to get that built up.
No, I got more than that. What do you mean I got 6 subscribers?
No, you got a picture of Pearl as your.
Oh, that you're on the wrong page. You're on my wrong.
At least 4 of those subscribers are me, so that must be
right. I mean, I've created at least 30 YouTube accounts so that I can subscribe.
Okay, so yeah.
But my YouTube channel is here, and it's look. I know it's horrible. I don't want to hear about it unless you're going to fix it for me. I'm not David Liu yet. I'm working on it. Who knows David Liu? Some of y'all do, right? So under the videos, I got some that are playlists. And so yeah, I got some videos that are unlisted. They won't be around forever. But I got playlists that you can also access. I can't even tell how many subscribers I have, actually, to be clear with you. I don't even know how to do that yet. Mainly because I put almost 0 effort into it, if you haven't noticed. The test prep, there's 10 videos in test prep. I think, yeah. Anthony, yours is in there. Yours is one of those.
Roger's that.
For now. I'm raw editing, and if you're really mad about it, I'll take it down. I got no problem with that. But I'll move into favorites. But yeah, that's so if I go through tests and that assessment, I go through it and we talk about the answers. We kind of do what we did here today. We kind of walk through and talk through, so you kind of know, because I do not, for the record, endorse test dumps as a way to get certified. My instruction on using test dumps is if you buy a test dump from Focus on Force or Salesforce Ben, or you take a Udemy class that gives you a practice test, all that's fine. But don't use it to study the test. Use it to study why the wrong answers are wrong and the right answers are right. Test the right answer, but also go test the wrong answer so you get an idea of it. Because if you don't know why the right answer is right, and Salesforce changes these answers knowing that there's test dumps out there, then, and they reword them and they move things around, then don't think that, that knowing the answer is the answer. Knowing why the answer is wrong and why it's right, that you're really going to get it then, and then go test it in the system like we did today. Right? You want to get this role hierarchy thing? Give one of your users no access to an object. Put them in a role hierarchy above somebody else. Share it with them. Right? Look at it and keep doing it until you see it happen. You go, oh, I get it now. Right? And then the more you customize Salesforce and the more you play on trails and the more you do this stuff, the more familiar these things are going to become, and the more you're going to really just kind of naturally understand how it works and what your decisions are around it. But I always think from the private model. I think from private all the way through. Private, fully restricted user, private, unrestricted user. Like private, full profile, permissions on an object, private, no permissions on the object. Just like we did with what's her name, the no access profile, right? When you see that, go review this video later and see that. It's a brilliant example that I'm going to use on my next class. I never used it in class yet. Like I never thought of logging in to somebody who's in the CEO role with no profiles permissions, right? Did that help anybody on here? Did that seeing that help? When what's her name had no access, but she's at the top of but she had, the role hierarchy says she has access to all the records, but her profile wouldn't do it. The profile said that wasn't there. It said didn't even see him. But I just want to take away the delete access. So I think I'm gonna create that executive assistant profile that has the delete access removed from all the objects, and then put her up in the role and see she can edit, change, transfer ownership, blah, 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 but she can't delete because she ain't got no license to delete. And I think the example of Allison not being able to edit or delete a position record really drives home. You can't sell your neighbor's car, right? You can't, even though you have a license, and you're a legal adult, you can enter into contracts. You can't sell that car. You can sell your car, but not someone else's. And then any feedback or questions about my YouTube channel, like, comment, and share. Or, I don't even know. Can y'all see how many subscribers I actually have? I mean, I can under my back end, but I don't see on the front where you could do it.
Yeah, I'm not seeing.
I have to learn more about YouTube in order to use it correctly. I get, but
You've got 2020 views since May 12th of 2006.
Yeah, which is still weak. Cherry just said that the YouTube. So the owner of the channel is the only one, Cherry, you're saying?
Yeah.
I got you. Well, let's see what it is. Hold on. I don't know. Oh yeah, I can't see it. Oh, I'm not as dumb as I thought I was, right? It wasn't just me. It was just an assumption I made about what I could see. I'll show you. I don't know. And I've got several private videos if you need them. Like I really go down. Like if we do a session, I asked Anthony's permission to put it on YouTube, right, Anthony? You said it was okay.
Roger that.
Otherwise, he would have said no, and it would have just kept that video private. If we have a personal session, I record them as private, so I can send you a link later.
And just to be clear, it was a completely unscripted video, so we didn't make it all fancy and.
Oh, totally.
Right.
I'm up. I got 11 in the last month. I'm screaming. And I don't have enough though, but I don't have enough. Okay, so that's okay. People will listen, I'm sure that when I clean up my content in my channel, because I need to do that. I also, by the way, if you go to my channel, I wish I could say make subscription the reason to see my unlisted channel stuff, because on my unlisted channel, I go through the trailheads for 32 hours in 2-hour bites. That covers all of this stuff. So if you want, if you need reinforcement, or if you got behind and you did something else, Anthony, like you started studying Masters of Mayhem, whatever class you're in, then for sure, jump on that playlist, the sales operations super user one, that one, the playlist for sales admin, super user, superhero, sales ops admin. I go through all the trails, superhero, sales ops, right? I go through the admin, trails, and more in that class. And the reason it's not even more is because I lost session 17 through 24 that I have to re-record. But that's when I go beyond just sort of the basic admins. I think I get most of the topics covered, but that's 32 hours of stuff. If that provides you guys a review, if you will, because we don't record others. So I did that on Trailheads, and you can do the trails, and if you have trouble, you can just comment on the video. Check it out. If you comment on the video, it creates a case in my organization. I have YouTube to case set up. So if you create a comment, it creates a case, and that will cause me hopefully to see it, or at least have my wife see it, or Patrick see it, if they see that I don't do anything with it.
That's the playlist that's going to be going away and turning into a course soon, right?
Yeah, that's the playlist that's going to go away and go back in our membership course. That after you take the assessment, you can, get in the course. But right now, I just want your feedback and, your questions. And I want to make sure that you guys, especially you're paying Salesforce a lot of money to take this class. It's my way of saying, I want you to pass the test. I want you to win. I want you to get really good at your job so that you have so much free time. You might even want to help me with my part-time work for sales, small businesses on the weekends and the evenings, like I know you're already doing. Something like that might be useful, but not ready. I mean, Patrick's just getting trained in that, and that whole system is just getting started. So I want to, the small to mid-sized market is highly underserved. Anybody under 50 seats with Salesforce is highly underserved by the partner community. And as a partner, I'm trying to create a mechanism that helps those businesses get the attention their Salesforce needs before they leave Salesforce. Because they will, because they don't know that it's their lack of understanding of Salesforce, which is kind of somewhat, I'd say, complex. Right? Could be a little bit to get your head around, right? Because like anything, the best thing about Salesforce is it's completely customizable. And the worst thing about Salesforce is it's completely customizable. So it's the difference between PC and Mac in my world, right? Macs, you guys that know Mac, you know that you can't change a lot of things. I got guys that I work with that they know PCs so well, they can have the Windows logo come up as a Mac logo, like when they start up their computer. Anthony, I got to look and see. Maybe I didn't publish yours because maybe I wasn't clear if I had your permission or not yet. So I think yours will be the most recent one. If I uploaded it, I may not have. Let me check. So no, that's us right here, man. The Salesforce Admin Readiness Assessment Session.
Cool.
You want to put your name on it so you can get some SEO criteria?
Not yet. We can work on it later.
A lot of these are practice tests. Some of these are old, my practice. Oh, I can move those out. They shouldn't be there. They kind of covered the first 5 modules. They were my practice before I became certified. I need to remove from that. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, I don't see that playlist, SF Admin Test Prep.
No, you don't see it?
Nope.
It's unlisted. You should be able to see it. I thought you could.
No, I see Salesforce snippets for sales users, negotiation, superhero sales, 4DX, your Dominic Karuba video, favorites, and my vlog.
So I'll tell you what. Guess what you guys get for being here on my class today? You guys get the Uber test. I didn't realize you couldn't see it. There it is. There's the link to all the test prep that I've done in the last 2 years. These are practice test reviews of some of the, when it says 60 questions, that's a web assessor test. This is when it says SATC, that's my test prep. I believe me, I haven't cleaned them up, but when I walked everybody through that course, what page? This one I just put out, the link right after you posted, Stephen, in chat. So how about that? You get a bonus. I didn't know you couldn't see it in the unlisted videos. You sure you can't see it?
You can see it now. And I added it to my library on my account, on this account. So
I think for being the most popular video app on the planet. Oh, really, Cherry? Cherry, why do you know? Maybe, Cherry, you could help me figure out my YouTube channel because I haven't done any research. Like I'm just going with that's probably not the best strategy moving forward. Sounds like you know more than I do. So look, you might get some one-on-one coaching, Cherry. We'll trade. You teach me about my YouTube basics. Clearly, I need help with that. And then I'll help you guys pass. I want to help you guys pass anyway. So now the only thing, Kyle, you didn't see is custom fields, custom page layouts that we did in class.
Yeah, I'm going to go through the monkey exercises tomorrow.
Just monkey it up because it's once you do the monkey, and it means just follow the exercises and do it, you're going to get a sense of what we're talking about. And when we start talking about record types, the only thing that's going to, the 2 things that are impacted by record types are page layouts and pick list values, right? And so when you have a single user that needs 2 page layouts or a pick list field that you want even different profiles of users to have different pick list values, then you need record types. That's a big controlling field of that.
Do you remember where you guys ended up yesterday, where you ended?
We didn't get to record types. We got through all the page layouts.
Okay, so stop at record types. Okay, good.
But you could go forward. You could keep going. That's fine.
Okay.
Now, everybody else, any other questions that you have about Salesforce? I'm opening up to any question you got. I'll make up an answer, but I'll tell you I'm making it up if I'm making it up. Was this useful?
Absolutely.
Okay. Anthony, I want you to schedule the test, and I want you to schedule within 3 weeks from now. Will you do that?
Yes.
I mean, get your voucher, get your test done, just get it while the information isn't blown up yet. I told you already, we did the assessment. You're ready to take the test. I'd rather you schedule the test for this week.
The only reason I haven't scheduled it is I'm trying to get finished with my project for this, the final project for this class.
When is that due?
This is due on Sunday next week.
Next Sunday is the 20th?
Yeah.
I want you to schedule it for the next week after.
Right, week after that. You got it.
So look, I'm going to share one on everybody. I just took on Thursday my advanced admin test. And the reason I took it was because I'm fundamentally cheap. And what that means is it was Stephen and Cherry and Kyle. I think Monday I opened up the web assessor account and I showed you guys where to register. Was that what I did this week on Monday? I might not have. I might have done it on Friday with Steve, Anthony, Katarina, and Stephanie's class, that I registered for the practice test on web assessor. So let me show you what I did. So web assessor is where you go to register for your tests, right? And when you get a login, you have a registration. And I know I had time so when I registered for my advanced admin test, it was because my January class, I was going through this and I was showing them, what day was it? I registered I failed it. I registered like in January for March 4th. I said, okay, no problem. And then I got booked class after class after class after class. And I'm teaching admin and I'm teaching platform app builder. And I thought they're close enough. And when Tuesday came, I was like, oh, you know what? I'm not really prepared for the advanced admin. There's stuff about territories, forecasting, flow, a couple things that I don't do every day. Got to run, Kyle. Thanks. Hey, Sabu showed up. How long you been here, Sabu? And I wasn't ready. So what happens when you fail? Nobody knows. They just know if it's pass or fail. You get an email that says where you failed. So let me see if I got mine. I think this is where it came now.
While you're looking for that, I'll mention that if you can find a voucher for $100 or $150 off the exam, you can reuse that for your retake.
Yeah. So it costs $100 to retake it. I got to pay for my own just like you do, but it'll give you all of the things. Like I didn't even remember content. I've never even touched content. Now that was funny. The applications, I'd like to see what I got wrong there. There was something about like that application, whatever they're talking about. I don't know what that is. I got to go dig into my Trailhead on that. Auditing and monitoring has to do with debug logs and set up audit trail. I'm shocked. And by the way, when I took the test, I was an hour in and I got complete. I'm like, I did awesome. I know I did. I know I passed. Then I went and reviewed, changed 1 or 2 answers. That's it. And failed, right? But I knew this is not good. Like I know where I need to study. So whatever that is, go into, let me see if I got it right, right? So here's what I'm going to suggest you to do. Content management. Go into Trailhead. This is now my list, right? This was me not planning and organizing very well. because matter of fact, I was supposed to start the advanced admin class because I've never taken the advanced admin class either. I was supposed to start that Monday. Class was canceled. So content management. Oh, there's a good module. Let me add that. Content builder basics. There's a good one. Content. That's a different content management systems. Yeah, those are all. I even took one of them, but when I completed it, I even completed it in August of last year. So this stuff fades away, is what my point is. Like knowing the information fades fast. Using it keeps it alive. So I just want you guys to. Sabu, how long have you been here? You been here the whole time?
Yeah, I just joined 1 hour late.
Oh, you were an hour late?
Yeah.
Okay, so I didn't.
CST.
I had my little grid of everybody who's on, and since you don't have your camera on, I didn't see you. Anyway, the point is, if you don't do this stuff on a daily basis, it's really even harder to remember. So it fades fast. So Anthony, we've just been through class. You've just done this thing. Finish your project. Get on it. Take my assessment again, the readiness assessment. Sabu, did you get the link to the readiness assessment and the
Yes.
Okay, and by the way, save the chat. If you need it, I'll send it back to you. I keep the chat for those links in it that Patrick shared and whatnot. And then, use everything you got, like those Trailhead Live videos. There's a lot of, maybe some other trainer explaining the same thing in a different way would make it go click for you better than the way I've explained it. I got my way. I do it my way. I try to vary it up a little bit, but I'm not 100% perfect. I'm, good enough to qualify, but I don't know. I'm not this. I know there's smarter people out there. I know there's better people in certain things. So, nobody expects you to pass. And Katerina, thank you for taking it. And thank you for going through those areas to see. And again, Katerina, just take my assessment and then schedule time. And if you schedule it earlier in the morning, and if you have trouble scheduling it, just email me because I hide a lot of my calendar and I got a lot of junk on my calendar anyway. So for that scheduling session, I don't show my whole calendar. I got secret spots available.
Okay.
And I'll walk you through that and give you that recording, and that should help you go find what you need. Right, Anthony? That's what I did for you. Is I walked him through all the ones he got wrong and then found out he got some of them right. And then I had to eat that crow. I even published a video on it though, so I'm not scared of the truth. I just keep it unlisted.
Oh, listen, I look at it exactly like we talked about it in class. It's not an incorrect answer. It's just temporarily with an errant option selected as the as the key. So it's constant adjustment.
Yeah, and you got to do the exercises and do them again, and then do the exercises without the steps, and then go do more around. Once you got that down, once you think like you got it, then go do more in every area you touched. Go do more. Go try something else. Try something different. Try something that's connected to it. Try something that's next to it. It may not be in the scope, but it all is going to help. Steve, when's your test scheduled? Steve S. I know. Nope. You did it again.
It's on Friday.
All right. So I got time in the mornings now because my morning class got canceled. So take that readiness assessment, fill out I'll put the link to that readiness assessment in this YouTube video description, hopefully. And I'll remember between now and we end this call. But take it and then schedule time, and I'll work with you, or just watch Anthony's if you get some of this. But we pretty much only went over Anthony's wrong answers, which was about 40% of the test. Because you got 60, really you end up with 67% or something like that. But
yeah, I got 61 out of the 103 because one was a dupe. So
yeah, but also we also corrected some, so you end up getting 60. We corrected 3 or 4 that you end up getting. I think some or all of them right. Doesn't matter. I corrected them.
Yeah.
And that's what I want. I want you guys to pass. I want you to get certified. I want you to get good at it. And then I want you to help me with my small business customers when my marketing kicks off. That's it. Even you, Cherry, you can do HR during the day, and then on the weekends, you can admin your all you want. And so anything else for you guys? I'm thinking about barbecue now because my body was preparing for barbecue by 3.
Mhm. Yeah, it's about beer o'clock right now over here.
At least y'all thought out. Sabu, did you have any questions? I didn't see any in the chat. So
No,
when is your test scheduled?
I haven't scheduled. I'll be scheduling it most probably in 2 weeks.
So in my world, the way I live,
Mhm.
most probably would be, is that exactly 2 weeks, or is it gonna be on the calendar of March?
It will be in March.
All right, pick a day and let me know.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks. Patrick, Patrick's already certified. Stephanie, when is yours scheduled?
Mine's also this coming Friday morning.
So have you registered for that?
I'll do the assessment today or tomorrow, I think, and schedule some time.
Yeah, give yourself a couple hours. And today might be too much. We've done a lot today already, so I'm a big fan of like letting your brain relax, let the information settle in, especially all this Salesforce stuff, because it'll swirl if you're not careful. And then good. Let me know, Stephanie. And this week mornings are better than any that I can predict moving forward. So, but again, if you don't see a time on my calendar, then please find me and just email me and I'll get it. I'll get the right time.
Awesome, thanks.
Same with you, Steve. Same with you, Katarina. Anthony, you already had your time. I'm going to charge you for the next one. Sabu, same thing for you. So get that assessment. Cherry and Steven, not until next week. Now my timing will be limited because I got a project that might be starting on the 15th. I don't know. I'm waiting to hear. But if it does, it just means I got to work in the evenings to do it with you. But that's fine because I have my evenings available after the Ides of March. Is that fair? But I would really recommend you guys go through the materials the 15th through the 26th, like that next 2 weeks. Kind of keep the class going on your calendar with like an hour a day or something like that, and then go and do it. And then come take this. You can take this anytime you want, but 2.5 hours. So awesome. Cool. Patrick, anything for you? You want to say, or as a newest member of our sales and technology consultant team? Nope. Patrick's probably not even there. Anyway, he might be. All right.
Hey, Dominic.
Yeah.
So as I'm looking at this stuff, I'm thinking that what would be helpful to me, and I don't know an easy way to set this up, but given a scenario to troubleshoot.
Yeah.
Because then that makes me have to use my knowledge of where things are and search for it. And then I can get better at understanding the relationships between things.
Yeah. So, no. I get it. So where those scenarios really live, somewhat, I say so far, the best that we got is going to be in the super badges with Salesforce. So under super badges are tough. And, I got to tell you, I did that one in 18 and that one in 20. I did that one this year. That one was tough. Just the reports, and as much as I love reports and dashboards, it's still tough because you're dealing with, you're in a scenario you got to get accustomed to. So the problem with scenarios is there's no two orgs that are alike. So no two scenarios are really that, but the Trailhead and Super Badges does a good job of contextualizing your scenario through the entire project. So they give you literally, and I think the BA specialist might be the first one to start with, if you really want to test it. But really, you got to complete, before you can even engage in the scenario, you got to complete a bunch of trails, all of which are really good. But then here's what they do. They just give you the pre-work notes, and then they put you at Ursa Major to kind of work through all these scenarios, right? So there's all the basics, and then each section, and then as you go through it, sorry, I'm going down to try to get there faster, but it's not there. So in order to complete it, you have to, like, you verify like each step of the process. So you really just got to work your way down the page. Now, what I've done to on super badges, by the third super badge, here's what I figured out. To complete a super badge, you should copy and paste everything from the trail on this page. And then I put it in a Google Doc. I formatted it so I could read it. And then I broke it out by section. So I had the prerequisites, the setup, everything I need to do. And then I had what each section was going to test me on. And then I pulled all that data, I put it in the document. So it was all together. So it printed pretty. And then I printed it and I worked off of it. And then, scratched off as I did things and took notes and all that. Because that working just on computer screens I'm still a little old school. So I kind of like the printer. And if you saw my last, to be clear, I did all 3 super badges to complete this admin superset. The security, I didn't even consider doing a document. By the end of the second one that I did, I said, boy, it would have been easier if I could reference this. And then I tried it with the lightning one, and that document became a plane crash. It was a train wreck of a document and the way I printed it. So I'm saying to my next super badge, here's how I'm going to take on the next super badge, which, by the way, is I think it's the app customization specialist badge. Yeah, I just got access to this one, and I don't think I've completed any of the requirements yet. Yeah, I haven't. I completed the first 2. Right? You do one challenge at a time, and each challenge earns you a couple hundred points, and then the whole thing gets you a bunch of points. And when I complete this one, I'll really be a 3X Ranger, because I don't have 150,000 points to be a 3X Ranger, because I go for badges and points. I don't know why. But I got 306,000. I'm 5,000 points shy. So I got to do this next. This is what I'm working on tomorrow and the next day and the next day, because I want the points so I can be a full Ranger with my 300 badges. Badges are easy to get, points are harder. But that'll help you, Steve, I think. But start with the admin ones if you want. But I do agree, scenarios really help out. And but don't go too deep into it, Steve. The admin 201 certification, the basic certification, is not. I know it's a hard test and they test a lot, but maybe I'm just used to it by now because I teach it and I take the test. I think, Steve, the 93%. Yeah, thank you, Patrick. I think 93% is as close as I got. So I still missed 1 or 2 questions. I'm hoping by this Friday, Stephen, Cherry, that I will do better than 93. But last Friday, I think we did 90. There was a class for that I did 93. So I don't know. Anyway, anything else? You guys still feeling better about Salesforce? Awesome. Okay. Cool. Have a great day. I'm going to take off.
Thank you, sir. Outstanding as always.
Yeah. And Cherry and
you.
Steven, you're welcome, Kettering. Cherry and Steven, definitely don't do any Salesforce work till Monday. Let your brain really process this stuff. And but if you have questions on Monday,
that's not really going to be a problem.
Why is that? Yeah. I know if you have questions, but if you have questions along the way, go look to see what we've covered and see if it answers it, and then we'll go from there. We'll cover it on Monday. All right, guys. Thank you, Anthony. Thanks, Cherry. Thank you, Cherry. Appreciate it. not Siri, Cherry.